You know, it's funny, because a while back while doing my review of the game Death Row to Canada, I talked about how great it was to see a once computer exclusive make its way to the Nintendo Switch, and how, though I found it to be far-fetched at the time, I would love to see every game under the sun come over as well. Jump forward to the time of this video, and that wish seems to have come true, seeing as how just about everything is getting put on the Nintendo Switch these days. The topic of today's video is one such indie game that I was pleasantly surprised to discover had been ported to the system, and of course, had to snatch up ASAP. Therefore, without further ado, let's jump into my review of West of Loathing. Released back in 2017 for Linux, macOS, and Windows, then in May of 2018 for the Nintendo Switch, West of Loathing is a comedy-adventure RPG developed by Asymmetric Publications and, little known fact, is actually a spin-off of one of their other titles called Kingdom of Loathing. Taking place in a weird, stick-figure version of the Wild West, the game has you guide your character as they leave the family farm behind and head west to seek their fortune. Along the way, you'll have many misadventures, such as traversing snake-infested gulches, sticking your hand in less than sanitary spittoons, getting into fights with skeletons wearing hats, engaging in some stupid walking, and much, much more. Now, right off the bat, I'll address the elephant in the room, which is that yes, the game really does look like this, and the game's art is indeed made up of stick figure drawings. However, while less than stellar visuals would be a negative in many other games, here, the crude drawn art style actually helps to give the game personality, which I find to be a big plus. I mean seriously, the game really stands out as unique due to its looks, and even just describing the game to others arouses some sort of interest. Not only that, but the choice to have everything look as simplistic as possible also helps contribute to the game's humor. Humor, of course, is the backbone of the game, and just about everything in West of Loathing is either a punchline or the lead up to one. For instance, you may remember that I mentioned engaging in stupid walking earlier, and that is because that is seriously a perk you can unlock for your character upon reading a book entitled The Art of Silly Walking early in the game. This, of course, leads to your character navigating through the world in a number of ridiculous ways, such as doing cartwheels everywhere they go, or rolling around like a tumbleweed. Another joke that gave me a bit of a laugh is when I received the deputy pistol from a town's sheriff, and discovered that it is not named that because it is a pistol that belongs to a deputy, but because the pistol itself is the deputy. Whether it's the flavor text filled with irony and wordplay, conversations with characters that play out like short sketches, or visual gags throughout the different environments, the game has a variety of jokes to discover around every corner. Finally, along with the interesting choice of art style and the quirky humor, I also really enjoy the exploring aspect of the game and how there are multiple solutions to any given problem. While the game is an RPG consisting of choosing one of 3 different classes and then leveling up your different skills in order to engage in turn-based combat, I think the game is honestly at its best when you aren't fighting. By this I mean that instead of engaging in the less than stellar fighting, which I'll get to in a bit, I find that completing quests or resolving random encounters without violence was usually more fun. For instance, there is a part where you have to retrieve a stolen item from some characters called the Fricker Gang, and while you can engage them in a fight to get the item back, I think that tricking the leader into leaving the area by saying that you are his brother who has stolen some guy's face a la Face Off is a much funnier option. Likewise, while I could have fought some bandits in the desert who wanted to blow me up with TNT, seeing that I had high enough points in the Hornswoggle stat and instead walked away with some of their gear was much more satisfying. Whether it is having the right item in the inventory, or having enough points in a certain skill, discovering the different alternative solutions to problems was something that I really enjoyed. However, with that being said, that of course brings me to the negatives of the game, starting with the aforementioned less than stellar combat. Now don't get me wrong, that is not to say that the combat is terrible by any means, but I just found it to be kind of boring and low stakes. By this I mean that either I was just extremely lucky, or I could just spam the same attack over and over again until I defeated my enemies without much strategy. However, I guess this makes sense since the game is meant to be more about the comedy than the actual gameplay challenge, and I do hear that there is a hard mode that I have yet to try out, so I don't know. Maybe that does in fact kick things up a notch. As for other problems with the game, they aren't too big of a deal, but I do want to throw out there that I found the inventory management to be a little awkward, and that due to only needing to walk up to some things in order to engage with them, it was a bit annoying activating doors or dialogue with characters when I was just trying to walk by them. All in all though, I think the West of Loathing is a tremendously fun game, and one that I definitely enjoyed playing. Full of amusing comedy at every turn, interesting ways to solve problems, a unique art style, and even a pretty catchy soundtrack, I definitely recommend checking it out. But hey, that's just my opinion. And remember, don't take anything that I say too seriously. After all, I'm just a wannabe reviewer. Thanks for watching.